Welcome back to another fantastic video. Today we're going to be looking at the roles of the president. So whenever you think of the president, you don't necessarily think of him fulfilling a whole bunch of different roles. You just think of him as the president, but he actually has many different jobs that he has to do. So the first role that we want to look at is that of head of state. Okay. And as head of state, the president is responsible for representing the nation. So this is when you typically think of the president, you kind of think of him as the face of the United States. That's what the head of state role is. He represents the nation, and he's also responsible for hosting visiting diplomats. So a diplomat is somebody from another country who comes to the United States for some reason. So to meet the president, to talk to Congress, to serve as an ambassador, that kind of stuff. So representing the nation, being the face of the United States, and hosting diplomats. He's also the chief executive. And as the chief executive, his job is to enforce laws or execute laws through all of the different agencies that the executive branch has. And we'll look at some of those in this unit. The president is responsible for making sure that the laws that Congress passes are carried out, because if nobody carries out the laws, then why do we need them? So in addition to carrying out those laws, he's also responsible for granting pardons, reprieves, and amnesty. And these are three vocabulary terms that you should kind of be a little familiar with. They should at least sound familiar. So a pardon is when you have been granted a full release from punishment, okay? So if you've been pardoned for a crime, that means it's like the crime didn't exist. You're totally off the hook for it, okay? A reprieve is a postponement of punishment. So if you've been granted a reprieve, then maybe you're still going to be responsible for carrying out that sentence, if you go to jail or whatever. But a reprieve basically means you're not going to start it right away. So maybe you have like a 2-month window before you have to report to jail. And then amnesty. Amnesty is a group pardon. So an example of amnesty would be when presidents like Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, when they granted amnesty to people who avoided the draft during Vietnam. So they basically gave them all a group pardon and said, you're okay, you're good to come back. The president also is responsible for being the chief legislator. Now, the legislative branch, Congress, makes laws, but the president also has a responsibility in that process. So most of the time, his big responsibility here is to propose legislation. So to propose means to, hey, I got an idea for this. I think we need to do this. And legislation is another word for law. So he proposes or he gives ideas for laws that Congress should create. Also, in this chief legislator, I'm fine. In this chief legislator role, he's responsible for using that veto power. And we talked about vetoes in a previous unit. But a veto is that refusal of a bill. And we all know how Congress can override that veto if they want to. As president, you're also responsible for being the economic planner. So the president every year proposes a budget of all of the different expenditures and all the different programs that we have, and he has to submit that budget to Congress. And then Congress is responsible for approving it or just saying, we're going to fund this, this, and this, but we're not going to approve the whole budget. He's also responsible for maintaining the armed forces. He's the commander-in-chief. And with that comes military strategy. He has the ability to deploy our troops, to send troops into other countries, to set aside money that can be spent for military purposes. He's also the party leader. So as the president, not the party leader, not woohoo, but the political party leader. So he's kind of the face of his political party. So if his political party has a certain idea or they have a certain agenda that they want to pass, then he is responsible for helping them do that. He's also the chief diplomat. And in that vein, he's responsible for conducting foreign policy. So if you ever hear anything on the news about the president having a phone call with the leader of this country and the leader of this country, or he's got a meeting planned here, or he's going to this summit, that's his responsibility as chief diplomat, trying to dictate American foreign policy. And I will stop there. If you guys have any questions, let me know.